Is your Honda Hrn216 running rough or hard to start? Here's how to fix it. Hey guys and gals, welcome to Garage Gear. I'm JB, and these carburetor cleaning instructions will be great for Honda Hrn216 models with a GCV 170cc engine. Now the first step is going to be shutting off our fuel going into the carburetor. Now I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the reason that your mower isn't running right is the dirty fuel that you have sitting in your gas tank. That being said, it's a great idea to drain all that fuel out and pour in some fresh fuel when we're done. Next up, we're gonna take our air filter cover here and pull this right off. Here's our air filter inside. This one's a little dirty, it's not too bad, but this could be part of the problem as to why you're having hard starts. If the air filter is dirty, the engine can't breathe, so it's a good idea to grab a new one, and I'll have these in a bulk pack linked down below in the description. Now we have two 10mm nuts here. We're gonna take these off. Have you seen your 10mm lately? Then this whole assembly will just pull right off. And you notice that there's a tube back here. This tube links up with a hole right here on the engine block, and we have to make sure that we put that back in when we're done. Now stop. It's a good idea at this point to snap a few photos of the carburetor so that way you can see exactly how it looks in case you're struggling to get it back on. Now right here is my carburetor, and underneath what I decided to do was put my funnel draining into a catch pan because we have to unhook our fuel line and there might be some dripping going on. So I'm gonna take some needle nose pliers. I'm gonna open up this clamp here on the tube. There we go, out of the way. Then from here, I'm going to simply twist off this fuel line. You can also use a flathead screwdriver to force it off. Almost. You're coming with me, pal, whether you like it or not. There it is. See? Little drippy. Not much was coming out of that fuel line. From here, I'm going to remove this gasket, and it only goes on one way. You can see this hole here at the top. That's going to line up with this hole here on the carburetor. Now we're gonna slide this carburetor off, but just note this, we have two linkages here. One is a thick one, and then we have a thin one just below it. We're gonna slide this off carefully. We're going to tip this guy down, just like so. We're gonna pour out a little fuel at the same time. Getting gas on the body. We don't want that. From here, we're gonna tip it down just a little bit. Off comes the first linkage, and then we have this really thin one. We're just gonna lean it back the other way, and off that one comes. And that is how you take off the carburetor. And to help this video take off with the YouTube algorithm, would you mind hitting that like button? Thank you. All right, let's open this baby up. 10mm on the bottom. Wow, that's on there. All right, let's call in Mr. Wilton. All right, Mr. Wilton, it's nice to see you once again. Pop you in just like that, snug you down, and we'll see how she does. There we go. I just loosened it up for you, Mr. Wilton. Here we go, take this bolt out. You're gonna have a little washer here on the bottom. We'll leave that. Then we're gonna take our bowl off, and sometimes your gasket will stay right there, or sometimes it'll stick to your bowl, so just be careful with it. You don't wanna rip it. That blue ring right there, that's your gasket. The bowl is actually really clean on this one. That's good. From here, I have a pin up at the top. We're gonna slide this guy out, and then tip it down like this because you have a needle that's resting right there inside your float. And then that's the inside of your carburetor right there where the bowl was. Now my blue gasket is pretty much stuck to the carburetor right here, and I'm not gonna risk taking this off and ripping it. I'm just gonna let it be. I'm just gonna carefully clean around it, and we'll let it stay right where it is. Now you're gonna want a good quality screwdriver here, and what I did is I took a Craftsman and I just kind of ground down the edges here, and this fits perfectly right inside to get my main jet out. And that's made of brass, so you want to be real careful with it. You want to stick this in and twist, loosen that thing up, take it right out, and you can just kind of tap it like this, and boom, out she comes. And then here is our emulsion tube. If you notice, it's got lots of little holes on the sides. We're gonna clean those out too. And then up here on the top, we have another screw that's covering this jet. And again, you're gonna want a good quality screwdriver. Make sure you have one that is nice and snug, fits perfectly into that screw because you don't want to strip this. From here, I'm going to press in nice and firm, give it a little twist. Boom, there it is. That screw came right out. There's the screw. And if we notice, inside, there's another jet. Now, let's get to cleaning. You're going to need a can of carburetor cleaner. Any carburetor cleaner will do. You can get the cheapest one, and you'll be fine. From here, we're going to start with the bowl. Spray this guy out. Easy. Next up, I have my float. I'm going to grab that gently. We're going to hose this guy down. Nice and pearly white. From here, I'm going to take my needle, spray that real quick, my pin. Now I'm going to take my jet, and this is usually where one of your main problems may be because it has a very, very tiny hole inside. And what you're going to want to take is something like a wire brush. Now you could use just about any wire brush, even a dog brush will work. You're just going to pull a needle off of that just out to the side, just like I have right here. And I'm just going to jam that thing in and wiggle it all around. Go in and out, in and out, in and out. Then from here, I'm just going to take my can of spray, shoot it right down the jet. Perfect. Coming right out. That jet is now clean. Now we have our emulsion tube, and we're gonna do the exact same thing. We have lots of little holes here. I'm gonna start with this big one right here at the top, feed it in, wiggle it all around, and then I'm gonna go to these bottom holes here just below it, and I'm gonna stick it all the way through. We're just cleaning it out a couple of times. And if these are plugged up for you, this needle may not go all the way through, so you might have to really work at it. Same one here, just below that. And then these ones down here are even tinier. Wiggle it in and out. Now what we're gonna do is take our emulsion tube. If I block it at the end with my finger, probably see it coming out right out the top. Yep, fountain of youth, baby. Next I'm gonna spray these screws and our other jet screw. Now it's time for the meat and potatoes here. We're gonna clean off the exterior first. Take your carburetor spray, hose it down. Wow, that's looking better already. That exterior of that carburetor is looking brand new and super shiny. Now what we're gonna do is attack the inside. Come here, we're gonna spray this down. It's a good idea to wear some eye protection because you're gonna have spray flinging everywhere. I'm gonna shoot up this tube. Pouring out the bottom, that's good. And then from here, here's where the fuel comes in, into the bowl. So we're gonna spray in here, shooting right out. Good idea to go the other way too. Then we have another little jet hole right there. We're gonna spray in there. You can see it pouring out of the carburetor on the other side. Now from here, I'm gonna flip it over to my choke flap side, and I have a jet right here and a jet right here. We're gonna spray into both of these. Looking good. And then this one right here on the left. And then we have a little hole right here at the top. We'll spray in there. Clean. Now here's an important one we got to clean out. This jet that we took the screw out of earlier, we got to spray down there with some carburetor cleaner. You could also use a bread tie and wedge it down to clean out those little jet holes. And if we look inside here, we'll see some tiny little holes that are going to squirt fuel into the carburetor. We got to get those clean. So we're going to take our carburetor cleaner, spray it in, and I can see it coming out of those little holes inside because it's pouring right out the main holes here. Perfect. Now we have all our parts all cleaned out. We're ready to go. So what I'm going to do next is take some compressed air and blow out all those jets, little crevices, get all the carburetor cleaner out of there. If you don't have compressed air available to you, what you could do is simply set these parts out in the sun, let them dry for maybe an hour or two, and you should be good to go. We're gonna start with our main body of our carburetor. We're gonna shoot some air right down that gas line. Oh yeah. Did you see that come out? Then we're gonna shoot it up our emulsion tube, down this jet down here, blow out the bottom. Oh, there goes our gasket. It came off. We're just gonna set this off to the side for now. And from here, we'll hit the top. Then we're gonna shoot it down this jet here. Then we're gonna open up our choke flap, spray inside. We're gonna link it up to these jets here on the inside, one on the left, one on the right, this one up top. That's all dry. Next up, the bowl, our float. We're gonna take our main jet now. You wanna hold on to this tight. Don't let it go flying off. Nice little whistle to it. Take our needle, take our emulsion tube, stick it right on the top. Everything else here will be just fine. Then we're gonna take our emulsion tube. Notice you have a stubby end and then a longer end. We're gonna take the longer end, that goes in first. Drop that down and then take your jet here and drop it in like so. We're gonna take our screwdriver, twist it right down and snug it down. You don't wanna strip it, so just be careful. That'll do. Then we're gonna take our float and our needle. We're gonna drop it right into this slot, just like so. I'm gonna put my finger over it, just like that. And then I'm gonna drop it right into this hole right here, just like that. Your float should line up between these two posts. Take your pin, slide that through. You're gonna center your pin just like I did here. And that is a good working float. From here, we're gonna take our bowl and put that right over the top and take your bolt and tighten it right down. Make sure you got that red gasket in there too. Take your 10mm socket, tighten it down, and snuggle-do. Last step, we have this lonely screw. We're gonna put this right back where it belongs. Thread it in by hand first, make sure she's good. Then take your screwdriver, make sure it's one that fits well, and then just snug it down. Done. This carburetor is now all cleaned up and ready to go back on the mower. Okay, so now the hard part is officially over. Now we just gotta reverse our steps. From here, I'm gonna take my thin linkage and I'm gonna put it in this first hole here on the top of the carburetor. That one's in. Then what I'm gonna do is take my longer, thicker linkage, and it has this little Z-bend here on the end. This is gonna go into the second hole. We're gonna bend it toward it, stick it down, work it into place. She's right where she needs to be. And then what we're gonna do is just simply slide on the carburetor. Perfect. Now what we're gonna do is reinstall our fuel line. We're gonna slide that back into place. Boom, just like that. And then take our little metal clamp here, slide it over the hump. Cool. And lock down that tube. Perfect. And from here, we're just going to take our gasket and put it exactly back in the same place that we found it. Push it on. Done. At this point, we're going to reinstall our back panel of our air filter over the carburetor. You want to make sure that these little metal bushings did not fall out. If they did, just make sure they go back in place. And then also make sure that this tube that I mentioned earlier goes back into its hole on the engine block. Slide it right back on. I'm going to work on my nuts here. Now I'm going to put these on by hand because I don't want to crack that plastic panel. I just want to get them snug. That one's good. Good. Now here I have my old air filter, and here's a brand new one. I'm going to put the new one on. I'm going to squeeze that right into place, and then just work my cover onto the hinges on the bottom, and fold it up, lock it into place. All set. At this point, all we got to do is open up the fuel line and watch for any leaks. It's been a few minutes now, no drips in sight, so if you're ready, I'm ready, let's go fire it up. Now I have good ethanol-free fuel inside the tank, and sometimes it may take a couple of pulls to get this thing going just because we've got to work fuel through that carburetor. Let's see what happens. How about that? Running nice and smooth. Perfect. Now here's a few other tips and tricks to help you out with this procedure. Instead of draining the fuel out and you know it's good fuel, what you could do is pour your fuel out into a clean container and then reuse it. If you choose to dispose of it, make sure you do so properly. Some auto repair shops may take your old gas, or you could just pour it on to make a mega bonfire. Now there weren't a whole lot of tools involved with this whole procedure, but if you don't have access to all those tools, what you could do is simply go online and buy a brand new carburetor for this mower. But know this, I've seen some of those cheaper carburetors that they sell online not have their jets properly bored out the right way, and then when you go to put them on your mower, your engine doesn't run as good as it should. You are way better off buying an OEM carburetor that matches your exact model. And as of the making of this video, I've seen OEM carburetors for this exact model running about $90. Pretty pricey. That's why I'm just a big fan of simply using what I have and simply cleaning it. This whole procedure only took about 15 minutes to complete, and if you do see any broken parts along the way, it is a good idea to simply just buy a new carburetor. Now I run all my small engines on ethanol-free gas, and that significantly reduces the amount of drama that I see with my engines. And even though I run all my small engines on ethanol-free gas, at the end of the season, what I do is I simply drain all the gas out. This will save you a lot of headaches when you go to start that engine back up in the spring. You could take your chances with fuel stabilizers, but again, in my experience, ethanol-free is the way to be. And one more thing I wanted to quickly show you here is your auto choke actuator. At startup, this should remain closed here with your choke flap. If for some reason this is stuck in the open position like this, that means your auto choke actuator, which is a $10 part and about a 10-minute fix, behind this is stuck in the open position like this. So that will need to be replaced. The choke here is closing just fine, so that means our auto choke actuator is in working order. Now, if you're still seeing some surging issues with your mower, check this out. Now, you see this little adjustment right here? This is set all the way to the left, and it basically helps prevent surging. It'll allow more fuel to get in. This is how mine was already set, so I'm gonna leave it exactly how it is. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If your mower ran fine before and now it's not, simply clean the carburetor and don't make any adjustments. I left my adjustment exactly where it is, and you can see just after the first pull, it started right up. Also, if your back wheels are bald and you're losing grip, check out the video I'll have linked down below in the description on how to retread your wheels. For more cool garage gear content, click or tap the screen right here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the garage.